Hey guys, it's Carl Heyne here. We're coming at you from Waterpro, where we're filming episode 20 of The Full Landscape. We've switched the tables this time, and Clint's on the receiving end of Q&A. We're gonna peel back the layers of Clint and see what makes the man tick. So tune in and have a listen.
Y'all ready to turn it up tonight? If you really wanna fly, your hands in the air, let the music get you high.
Look, thanks for having me along, Clint. I'm not sure. Am I having you along, or are you having me along?
Well,
here?
I did say to Matt this morning, I've got a podcast at 9, and Matt's like, no, you don't. Carl has a podcast at 9. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I think the thing I'm most impressed about is that that you and DK arranged my own customised intro jingle.
Well, DK did a whole day on that yesterday.
Yeah.
That's what was that, a 20-second clip? And
Do you wanna-
And he probably spent 6 hours building it.
Do you want to roll that now?
Yeah.
You roll it.
Yeah, you roll that in.
Roll that now, DK. All right, hang on.
And we're back.
All right.
Oh, you meant to say that?
Did I just blow your marketing budget with that?
No. Well,
It was a 40-piece orchestra. That's pretty big.
I think DK was probably looking for shit to do yesterday. Having a full-time media person can be challenging when we don't have content for him to produce. So,
Well, I did that. That's good.
yeah, so you're helping out.
We could cut to a pretend commercial break later too, and get some money back into the budget if you like.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone would put any money into this, but yeah, cool.
So Clint, you're a mover and a shaker. You know, you're a guy that, you know, from outside looking in, I feel like you're never really sitting still. You always got your eyes forward. You set goals and work your way to those goals. But you're also a 35-year-old CEO, MD, founder of a 10-year-old successful enterprise. Do you ever actually stop, you know, and take, you know, reflect on that? Just stop and take stocks of...
Not a lot. I think in preparation for this, I did. Last night, I was looking at a lot of old photos from when we first opened. I was trying to find some stuff to reference, to the point where I don't remember the dates that things have happened, because I don't worry. I just keep moving. So, you know, you're like, when did you open, or when did Fluid Designs become Waterpro, or when did this? I don't know. So I had to go research that so that I knew I was ready. So not really. I kind of look forward mostly.
Did you find that rewarding, an opportunity?
I enjoyed it, actually.
Yeah.
I kind of regretted that there wasn't more record of the early years. We did take a lot of photos, but I don't think business owners were as conscious of documenting the journey back then as we are now.
I agree with that.
And, you know, you've probably got periods that you were like, fuck, I wish I had a photo of that first desk, or the first ute we bought, or I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, the start of my business probably predates photos in general, but...
but your involvement. Well, yeah, actually, to be fair, you
I would
probably
love to
would
have
love
that
to have...
desk,
Imagine
though.
having video of your grandfather having a meeting with a client 50 years ago, or whatever it was, 40 years ago. Like, you just... Like, how he conducted himself as a business person, and whether or not there was any continuity between your personality and his in the way he dealt with problems, or...
Yeah.
Like, my kids will have that.
Yeah, I would. You know, I would love to be able to do that. In fact, we wrote a small piece for an Ayla article where we touched on that exact topic. Yeah, and of course, generations separate myself and EB, but it'd be interesting to know, you know, what has transcended those generations.
Well, stories will get passed down, but there's always that Chinese whispers of, you know, did that really happen exactly like that? Or, I mean, I know that without DK around, my stories will get much better as the years go by, because I'll be like, yeah, man, we were massive. Like,
what is it? The older we get, the better we were. Yeah. So, what's your elevator pitch? I mean, we're going to talk about a few things today. You know, we'll talk about here and now. What, you know, your business as it is now. What's your elevator pitch for Waterpro?
There's a few. Generally, it's Waterpro are an irrigation business that specialises in the supply of irrigation materials to the trade. In a profession, like a high quality, competitive priced market. So that's the kind of irrigation supply only. I guess that's it. It's funny that you ask. I don't have an elevator pitch much, but every sales training that you've been to over the years, you get asked to to write one down.
Put one together, the 30 seconds that you get in an elevator. What is it?
Yeah, the most recent one was went to a Kerwin Ray seminar, and we had to write down that, like, he gave everyone a recipe for how to write that. So it's like Waterpro are this company that specialises in this with the target market of this. So yeah,
I feel like maybe you being constrained to come up with that doesn't suit your style either.
not at all.
Which,
Not at all.
Yeah.
Like, it would be different depending on who I'm talking to.
yeah, fair
So
enough.
I'd get a sense for what they needed, and then I would say whatever needed to be said. I'm never really prepared.
Because it's interesting with Waterpro, it's it's a mix between supplying the commercial side of the industry as well as being a shop front for retail as well.
And the shop front for retail is only still probably 10 or 15% of our turnover.
Oh, really?
And it was below 5 for a long time, probably 5 years. I am a big believer that businesses like ours are built off the back of high quality trade, and then the retail organically follow on in the decades that follow. And you'll see that with companies like Newton Sand and Metal and Newton's Building and Landscape Supplies, where I started in this market. Their focus was their trade, and then you'd start to see, mum and dad from Rostrevor come in and they're like, oh, this guy did our landscaping, we need a bit more of this, he said to come here. And then you start to get that word of mouth from your trade. So that's how I've always operated, where I don't spend any money on retail marketing except this now. But I hadn't, there was no 5AA, there was a little bit of testing, but there was no messenger, there was no advertiser, it was just, I'd rather spend the money on a BDM, have them go find the trade, and then obviously the rest follows.
Yeah. So you've touched very quickly there on your early days with Newton. So I guess let's go back past the before the foundation of Waterpro as it is now. Go back to the start of your professional life. You started at Newton. So Newton's was your first job out of school?
Nope. Out of school, so I was working at school. My first job was, I was 12 when I started working as a newspaper money collector. So this is pre-BPay, where if you got the newspaper delivered, the newspaper company would then pay kids to ride bikes around and knock on the door and collect the money. So I'd get 4% of whatever I collected in the weekend.
How old were you?
12. And I was riding around with $1,000 on me most of the time.
I was just going to say, I don't think that'd cut it these days. I reckon there'd be some dramas with that.
So my area was kind of St Agnes. So from Tea Tree Plaza back to Smart Road and Tolly Road, kind of it wasn't a massive area, but you get a newspaper around, like a house gets maybe $8 to $12 worth of. So I'd have 100 houses, say, and do knock money, and then I'd have $5 bonus if I collected all the money, and then it was probably, I think it was 10 if you got everything, 5 if you missed one house.
KPIs at 12.
Reaching
KPIs at 12.
And you think about it, like I had to knock on 100 houses, collect $1,000 for 4%. So I'd take $40 for my efforts for my 2 days on the bike. If I missed out on 3 houses because they were on holidays or like anything, they're delinquent payers and they weren't going to pay anyway, and I'd be back there. My mum would drive me back there on Tuesday, Monday, whatever, and we'd have to drop the money back to Michael Foran. This is like, I'm 12, man. I was working with this dude, Michael Foran, I think his name was. And we'd go past these houses on the way to dropping the money off. So, I'm glad Mum did it, because it was definitely not a financially beneficial thing for her to be doing, to be driving me around for me to get an extra $5, but it was a good lesson.
Yeah, good foundation.
Yeah. So that was that, and then I started working at Woolworths. Actually, I worked at Woolworths first when I was about 14 3/4. I think that was the earliest I could legally work.
Stacking shelves?
Fruit and veg.
Oh, yeah?
It was horrible. Like, if there was mouldy anything, it was my problem. Like, because there was management, full-time staff, me.
Clint, yeah.
So those mushrooms that are stuck in that mat, get them out. Couldn't you do that? Just get them out. Baby just threw up.
Fix
that. So I did that, and that caused me a lot of anxiety. I didn't like working there. So I ended up, it was at a point where I was throwing up because I didn't want to go to work, because of the, I don't know if it was bullying as such. It would probably be categorized as bullying now, but it was just very hardcore, male-dominated. The fruit and veg industry is pretty full on, and I wasn't for me. So I left there and I went to work at Tropicana, which is across the road from the Woolworths at Tea Tree Plaza. There's a fruit and veg shop in there. So I went there and worked for the Belfari family.
Was that any better?
Much better.
Yeah.
Family run business. Still strong, like work hard, get here on time, don't make mistakes. Like it was,
But with family values instead of corporate values.
yeah. So Saturdays, you know, the nonna would bring in food, and we'd share food, and we'd work, and I could eat some stuff. Like it was more family, and that was probably my first experience in Italian business. And then I went to Japan, came back, and started at Domino's as a pizza delivery driver. So that was when I was about 17, 18.
I think that's where you met my brother. Was that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. So I bought his car.
You did?
Back then. So
Yeah.
this is the crazy like Adelaide.
How it all fits
2
together.
degrees of separation.
Yeah.
So then I worked at Domino's as a pizza delivery driver and was doing pizza deliveries in a V8.
All still at school?
Yeah, I dropped out of school 13 weeks from the end of year 12 to run that shop.
Okay.
So Domino's at Dernancourt was my store, and I was doing driving and I was enjoying it. And then the manager left, and then a new owner bought it from from Domino's Australia, and he offered me the job as the manager. So then I quit school to do that, much to the disgust of almost anyone that values the education system and every teacher. Because at the time I was year 12 SRC chairman. I was doing like meetings with like I'd go to the staff meetings to represent the students and shit.
So you're a dedicated student, but
Yeah,
you've referenced a lot about school life not being a good fit.
It's not
for
for
you.
everyone. Well, it probably would have been fine if I didn't go to Japan for 12. Look, so I went and did an exchange program and then came
Through
back.
school?
No, mum and dad helped with
Okay.
that. So mum came back from, I think, you know, in Civic Park, they have like the Civic Park, I don't know if it was a spectacular, but they had this like something, a careers day or something. And mum got a brochure from the AFS, which was the Australian Field Soldiers, which was a exchange program that was started, I don't know, back after the war or around the war, like Second War. And then she's like, do you want to look at this? So we started going to meetings, and then it worked out that all I had to do was apply and pay the money, and I could go live somewhere for 12 months. And mum was like, do you want to do it? I'm like, yeah, why not? So we applied, got accepted.
You speak Japanese at all?
I speak okay Japanese. Like,
Before that?
no. We were studying. I think trying to learn a language in school is stupid. I did primary school and high school we did Japanese. So I did Japanese from year 3 or year 4 through to year 11 when I went to Japan, and I could count to 10. But that probably wasn't as much. So like if you think about how much Japanese you'll learn in 12 months in a school, like you're only in an hour lesson a week.
Yeah, when you add
40
up the
weeks
hours,
a year,
yeah.
40 hours. What are you going to learn? So when I got there, I was a baptism of fire. But Japan's quite an English-speaking country, so even back then in '99,
If they feel like speaking English right there, right then too, I've noticed.
they helped me too much.
Yeah.
They probably should have made me drown. So, but then when I got back, all my friends had moved on to the next year level, and then they were partying pretty hard, and I was partying pretty hard with them, to the point where like I didn't rock up to, I think it was year 12 mid-years, because I was hungover, and then the teacher rang me and said, "Oh, if you come in, I'll still let you do it." And I was like, "It doesn't matter to
do
me."
you think that's a sliding doors moment for you in
Definitely.
any way at all?
And I've got lots of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was like, it's no one's fault. But my mate's parents went away for 11 weeks to Europe, and his house was empty, and we were 17, and we all had money as well because we were all working. And then I think my mum went away for 2 weeks during that same period. So I had an empty house, and he had an empty house. And what do you got a bunch of 17-year-olds? What do you think's going to happen?
I think every good teenager movie starts off with that
The
exact synopsis, doesn't it? Yeah.
So yeah, I still made it. I still went to work, and that's the crazy thing. I was still working.
But you've jumped around, so you've
This is not.
you've jumped. No, I mean professionally. You've gone from doing the paper rounds to collecting money, meeting your KPIs at 12. Well done.
Well, I was always told
fruit and veg.
If I wanted stuff, I had to earn money to buy it. So, and mum worked out very early that money was a motivator for me. Not because I needed money, but because if I wanted stuff, I needed money to buy stuff. And so she used to punish me very early by taking money off me, not by putting me in time out or hitting me or whatever. She's like, this is how much money you've got, and if you step outside the lines, I'm going to fine you throughout that period. So
6 months old, 8 months old.
probably more walking, but no, it would have been early. It would have been pocket money time, like before I was working. So 8, 9, 10. So yeah.
So you've made the jump there to management.
Yeah, so I was probably, I don't know if I wouldn't have been any younger than anyone else managing Domino's franchises at the time, but we had the lowest turnover Domino's in the country at the time. So there was 500 odd shops in, 2001, and ours was doing 10 grand a week and like was at the bottom, and it still made money. So it was a good experience to run a very hard shop. Like Domino's Dernancourt was probably one of the only Domino's that have ever been relocated, because they don't close shops and they don't move shops because it shows weakness on a national scale. So they just go, well, that's one of our weak ones. We just have to leave it there and do the best we can. So
And you managed to point those arrows up.
Enough.
Yeah.
So, but you think about, like, I was managing 15 and 14-year-old kids when I was a 17-year-old kid.
Did you think at that point that was a career path for you? That was your
it
career?
Was. So Domino's have a thing called the Domino's Development Fund where you can save up to get a deposit to buy your own store. They did back then. I don't know if they do now. So I think you save 50K and they go guarantor for you for the other 250. So you get 300 and you can buy yourself a shop. But you have to save that within the walls of their building. So you'd set up an account that they split your pay into, so they'd put $100 or $200 a week away to show your commitment, but you'd also be doing, like, there'd be a good career path for you because they know you're going to open a shop, so they'll put time and money into you. But you can always
that's
walk
what
away.
you thought you'd be doing at that point?
I was doing it, yeah. It's funny, like, I guess every time I get offered an opportunity, I kind of just say yes and just start doing it, which is dangerous for me because as I've gotten older, I've had to start saying no more because you get presented with more opportunities the more success you have. And I was 17, 18, and they're like, get a shop, man. And I was like, yeah, why not? So I just said yeah. And like I was being a delivery driver, and he's like, why don't you manage the shop? And I was like, yeah, right. And then my mate rang me from Newton's. He's like, why don't you come work here? I was like, yeah, right. So,
okay, so that's the jump. I was trying to work out how you went from this what looked like a real career path.
Well, money probably. I moved out of home when I was 17 or 18, and I was responsible for myself. I wasn't going to put my hand out, and I had no intentions of going back. Not because there was anything wrong. It was just I didn't want to be. The whole, like, if you live under our roof, these are certain rules that you need to adhere to. They weren't unreasonable rules, but I just didn't want to have any rules. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. So I was dating.
Which is probably still a trend, I'd imagine.
100%, yeah. That's why I have to have a business, and that's why I'm more comfortable here than I am at home. Because at home I've got rules. Here I don't. Because I have to take into consideration Celeste, and then, obviously I have to make sure that we stick to
some self-imposed rules as well, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, there's stuff, yeah. And there's government rules that I have to adhere to, but...
Yeah.
Well, no, more like I'm not allowed to drink and drive and that kind of thing. So I adhere to those rules. Never used to. But, so my mate was working at Newton's, and he knew that I was doing some crazy, like, 60, 70-hour weeks. And at the time, I was on, 26.5K, managing a shop, fully responsible for everything. And then he's like, we've got a job at this irrigation store, stocking shelves. It was more money than I was earning, better hours, daytime work. And then because you think about, like, as an 18, 19-year-old kid, I wasn't with my friends on Friday and Saturday nights because I was making pizzas. So, I was starting to suffer socially, and I wasn't seeing people that I cared about and that I wanted to spend time with.
Well, all the friends that you were missing out on were probably ordering pizzas.
Yeah.
Which,
they'd order them and not pick them up, and then they'd rock up when I was closing and be like, "Hey, man, what's the go? You got some pizzas on top of the oven? What, they going in the bin or what?"
Oh, really?
Like, oh, no shit, dude. There you go. So that's when so I jumped to Newton's and then climbed the corporate ladder pretty quickly there.
Was that pathway for you obvious right from the start? I mean, I feel like right from the beginning, you and I have spoken a fair bit about some of your earlier years, but I feel like right from the beginning you've always had goals.
If I'm in a business, I want to be in charge.
Yeah. So even before you accepted the role at Newton's, which at that point was, at the bottom.
And it was very unknown as well. I'd never worked in irrigation.
Yeah.
Like, it was I remember, like, it was enjoyable. And the early days there, and if you talk to any of the older staff, they'll be like, it's a different place now. And I don't know what it's like now because I haven't been there for 10 years, but even 5 years of being there, and it'll be the same here. As a business gets bigger, there's less that you can get away with as a company and as a director with your staff because there's more corporate governance and people are watching you. We had a lot of fun back then. Like, it was a family. And
so who were your managers?
I reported to Frank effectively.
Okay.
So early days, Frank and a guy called Serge Bria owned the irrigation shop, and then Serge exited, and then Frank was the sole director of that, and so Nick Ritchie was my manager. He works there still, and then he left, and I went into a management role of the irrigation shop, and then got more and more responsibility over the years. I was there 5 years, so that was kind of my proper apprentice. So I guess I did my apprenticeship in business at Domino's. And then I did my apprenticeship in family local business at Newton's.
And irrigation.
Yeah, and irrigation. That's where I learned about irrigation. And Frank learned from Nick Bianco, and I learned from Frank.
Yeah.
Pretty good pedigree.
Yeah, I agree. I've worked with Frank a little bit through MLSA,
Yep.
and I'd imagine that he would have been quite a good, strong mentor, or
Really good.
maybe I don't know whether he was a mentor or not. Would you classify him as a mentor,
It's
or
hard
just a
it's
good,
hard to
strong
put a
leader
label
to
on it,
learn
yeah,
from?
and I don't think you can put a label
Yeah.
on some of those relationships. Like I had a manager at Domino's called Lachlan, who was an unbelievable an example for me, and he would never consider himself a mentor because of the kind of person that he was. But he was really strict but really fair. Like, it was, these are the rules. We never went home until the job was done. And pizza shops are very much, the job's not done at the time that the shop closes, because you've got to clean up, you've got to make dough for tomorrow. It's not just like, that's why this is so great. Like selling poly fittings, you just close the door and walk out. There's no washing up, there's no getting ready for tomorrow. It's all just there.
It's all there.
Plastic's great.
Inventory management behind
That's
the
all it
scenes.
is,
Yeah.
So, yeah, Frank was good, and I spent a lot of time side by side with Frank for a long time. And it's hard now. Like, I've left and started a business that competes with one of his businesses. It's never going to be the same. It can't be. Like, if one of my guys left here and did the same thing, like, if it was done honourably, you're kind of like, all right, well, good luck. But you still want to crush them.
Yeah,
Like,
well, they're competition at that point.
And that's right. And I'm sure any opportunity they get to step on me, they'll take it.
They'll do it, yeah.
And I accept that. That's the game,
So when you say, leaving honourably is important, did
definitely.
you leave Newton's honourably?
I think so. I think only they could answer that.
Yeah, fair enough.
But we never intended on opening an irrigation shop when we left. Michael, who was my business partner for 4 or 5 years, was probably the driving force behind leaving. I was kind of like, yeah, cool, I'll do it. Like,
So he wasn't with you at Newton's?
He was. I was the sales and marketing manager, and he was the purchasing manager.
Okay.
So we took 2 key roles out pretty.
So this takes us back to the beginnings of Waterpro,
yeah.
Before that, which was Fluid Designs.
Yeah, so Michael
talk
and
us
I,
through that.
So we were working. So he was my shift runner / assistant manager at Domino's. So I met Michael back in far out, like 01, 02, and he taught me. So when I started at Domino's as a delivery driver, he taught me how to deliver a pizza. So I got in the passenger seat of his car and we drove to someone's house. I remember the house. I could go there right now, and knocked on the door. This is how you deliver a pizza. This is how you take the money. And we just got along really well. So we'd do like closes together, and we'd make dough for the next day. And like, he was a good worker, I was a good worker. We both enjoyed. We didn't bother us working, and then we'd go to someone's house and drink beers, and it was just fun times. And then when I went to Newton's, I pulled him across because they were looking for people, as a good business owner will do. They'll go to their good staff and say, do you have any friends that are looking for work? Because obviously, if you're a good person, you probably know good people.
Hang around other good people, yeah.
And so he came across. I'm sure Frank's probably regretting all of this like 10 years later. And then Michael was better suited to purchasing. His brain was more analytical than customer service orientated.
Okay.
So he went into a purchasing role, and then I stayed in the sales role. And then time went by, and I guess he wanted something different or didn't want to be there, so he was looking at leaving. And him and I used to walk a lot back then, because I've always had weight issues, so I'd always try and tag along to some kind of exercise if it was socially enjoyable, because I was like, we've killed 2 birds. And we just got talking, and we came up with this idea to start a company called Fluid Designs, which was going to be a water feature construction
Just spitballing to begin with.
Yeah, we're just walking. Like, he was going to, I don't know what he was going to do. I think he was going to do something different. And then, so he resigned, and then I resigned 2 weeks later. And we were both going to go into business together and start Fluid Designs. And so there's a company called Water Motion Energy here who was our target. Like, we were like, we can do what they do. No one else is doing it. They've got no competition. There's heaps of money in it. Water features are ridiculously priced. Let's do that. And then we kind of stumbled along doing that and never really took off. And then we're like, well, we need money, because we had no money. And we didn't have jobs, and any savings we had were kind of depleting. So then we decided we'd start doing irrigation installations, because we knew that. And so at the time, I had a relationship with Stefan, who is at Paul Munn's. And Paul Munn have this thing where you can pay for referrals. So they'll invoice you $400 or $800 a month and send you referrals. So if people go knocking on their door and they go, hey, have you got anyone that can install lawn in Paraka, Paralau, Medina, or whatever? They're like, yeah, cool, we do. And I reckon they'd have 6 or 8 guys doing that. So they're pulling in, $5K a month from
just on the referrals.
But they were getting that many referrals, and they were good work. That was good work. We were winning all the work. So then we became a landscape irrigation company. This is all in the period of less than 6 months.
With Shopfront at this point?
Not then. So we were buying irrigation from Newton's and Reese. So they were our two, and they still exist as irrigation shops now. And then it was probably, I don't know if it was a year in or less than a year, I was like, fuck this. Like, I don't want to dig holes anymore. This is shit. Like, because Michael was kind of running the numbers and I was doing the work, and he was still working on site, and I'd still go to some meetings, but it was predominant. We had a team by then, so we had a couple of guys working for us. And then we had Paul from Prospect Contractors came to us with an opportunity to install underground rainwater tanks. And so then we kind of moved into that. So we were doing big underground rainwater tanks.
You're digging some big holes?
Oh man, we had there was a job at Hope Valley, it was a 120,000 litre underground tank. So we had a 22 tonne excavator.
And what year was this?
10, 11? No, not even, like 9.
Okay.
When did we left in 08. We started Fluid Designs in 09. We were probably doing tank installs 09. Yeah, because Waterpro opened in 09. Or what is now Waterpro. So an irrigation shop opened in 09. So it was really 08. Like, a lot happened in a very short amount of time. And then I think when I was looking at photos last night, I think I had my engagement party inside that window as well. So I'd left the job. Celeste and I had a house together. She was supporting me then because she was the only income. And we were trying to get this business off the ground, running it on trestle tables in my spare room in my house, because Michael didn't have a house big enough for us to run it in his house. He was in a unit at St Agnes. So then the rainwater tank thing wasn't for us, and I didn't want to work on site. I was like, this is shit, and chasing money from builders and everything else, and quoting work and never really knowing.
Which you'd gone from heavy management and sales orientated work, which seemingly you enjoyed. And
I lost a lot of weight. Like I lost 12 kilos in like the first 2 months or something because I was working on site. But it wasn't for me. And I guess cracks probably started to show for me a little bit then with regards to our partnership, but it wasn't anything massive. We'd always have, I don't think you should do it this way, I don't think you should do it this way, well, we're doing it this way. But then he said, well, you know, Newton's this way, Reese are this way. We're not really happy with it, how they're supplying the market to suit us, and that's their business, how they do it.
Because you were taking their product at trade, presumably.
Yeah, we were buying at trade and installing it, which is fine, and that's how it should work, and we were cool with that. But then we'd go there, we'd have inconsistencies with one of the suppliers around something, or the other supplier would be running out of stock or whatever. And Michael's just like, dude, like, if that's what it's like, you know how to run an irrigation shop. I understand business. Why don't we start an irrigation shop? And I was like, oh, shit. Because that, you know, straight away was like, ooh, you know, we've just left one amicably, and now we're opening one. And so we were like, he was, none of this would have happened if it wasn't for him. Like, even this, I wouldn't have this if it wasn't for Michael.
So it was his spark of an idea.
Yeah, he was the one that was kind of motivated to do it. And I'd just, as I said at the start of this, I just said yes. So I was like, okay, why not? So we went and signed a lease at Stepney on a building that we shouldn't have. Because we were like, Newton's had their shop, Reese had a shop in the city. You know, we had like an idea of where the shops were, and we were like, what about eastern suburbs, you know, city fringe? And that was his idea as well, Stepney. So we went and found this building and signed a lease. We didn't have any money, and then signed a lease for 2 years, $60K a year. Our rent's less now.
With no guaranteed cash flow?
None. No customers, no money in the bank, no suppliers. So,
had you engaged any of who would become your clients later? Had you sort of put the feelers out
canvassed,
to see?
Yeah, and we were still talking to a lot of people, because, you know, people would be like, oh, how's it going? You know, what are you doing? The shop's not the same without you, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then we're like, yeah, cool, we're opening a shop. They're like, yep, no worries. Let us know when you do. And then it's funny, I've spoken to a lot of people about it. I think I spoke to DK about it recently. Everyone you think that will come over with you doesn't, and the people you don't think will do. It's really weird.
That is interesting.
Like, I had people say, we will buy from you if you open your own shop. And the week we did, you'd ring them and they're like, look, Frank's been really good to us, man. So
it got real.
Well, and it was kind of good that they didn't, because, you know, we didn't build Waterpro with Newton's as customer database. We built Waterpro probably highly with a company called Chapman and Rivet's customer database, and they no longer exist. And some of Reese's database and a sprinkling of Newton's database. Obviously, there's a few key customers that I had a ridiculous relationship with, and they wanted to buy from me, so they followed me. But a lot that I thought would move didn't, and still haven't. I looked at photos last night of of people we were chasing in 09. So there was a board. We had a board on that we wrote who we wanted as customers, and I'd be ringing them. And there's 2 on there still that we still haven't got, and we'll never leave. And I will still ring them once every 6 months.
Still try?
Yeah, no, I'm not giving up. And they said, we categorically guarantee you we will never buy from you.
What's the movie with Steve Buscemi where he crosses a name off the list and puts the lipstick on and lounges back in his chair?
That's an Adam Sandler movie.
Is it?
I reckon it's Back to School. Billy Madison, where
it is.
where
I
he
reckon
rings
it is.
up and says sorry, and he just
That's
crosses
right.
him off
Yeah,
the
that's
list.
right. Yeah.
So, I've it's funny, and I'm not ready to do it, but I had this like thought recently where I was like, everyone that I guess I may have done a little wrong by, or that there might be some ambiguity around how well the situation was treated. I'd love to have a meeting with them all at once, or have like a 10 years and just invite them along and be like, look, I don't know how we left it, and if you feel the same, but are we cool? I'm not ready for that, but
Fair enough.
it's something I think about.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds like it weighs on your mind a little bit.
And not enough that I'm... Yeah, at the end of the day, I want to have a clean sheet. I don't want to have... I don't like the idea of people not liking me. I and probably part of the reason that we do so much media is because I like the attention. I want to be known for doing good, and I want people to like me. And when someone doesn't, I'm like, that's not cool. Like, why? And I don't... That's it. Like, that's all it is. But I just don't like the idea of someone going, he fucked me on that, and I'm not happy about it. So
Yeah. So I mean, you've got your 12 commandments or your 12 rules.
So they're Waterpro's 12 values, which are kind of mine. I've actually started writing my own rules.
Yep.
That is probably a twang on that, but yeah.
We might come back to those, but that just reminds me of, I think you've got one which has always stood out to me, which was no dick moves.
No dicks allowed. Yeah.
No dicks allowed. Is
Yep.
it? Yeah. That's it's a big one.
It's saved us money. Like, we've had customers that have acted like dicks and have then gone broke 5 years later. But then we've also got customers that I put on a dick list that I probably shouldn't have. And that's always an awkward conversation when you go back to them and say, look, these are the reasons I did it. 5 years has gone under the bridge. It appears you're not that company anymore, or you're not like that, and I was mistaken. That's a good hat-in-hand conversation. But I've had those conversations.
Yeah, so I think, when I went back through your social media just recently, there was I forget whether it was a video or a post, but where you reference I fired more customers than staff. I mean,
I would have 100%.
That is a profound and bold statement to make.
If you look at our HR, we would have, what have we got? We've got 12 people now. I've had, like, Mark, who was our videographer, left because he went back to England. We've had 4 BDMs leave. They're the highest turnover staff members. Some because they've been offered other jobs, some because of redundancies, because of economical reasons that we have here, some because I guess the pressure gets too much and they decide to leave. But so if that's 4, 5, I can't think, 6. There wouldn't be many. There'd be less. We'd have less staff have left than we currently have. So we'd be in single figures on a 10-year-old business.
I dig that you're rationalising this with numbers, but I think, which is cool. But I think like the most profound part of that statement, though, is that there's this concept in your mind of actually firing customers.
Yeah, no one does it. It's crazy. Like and even now, I get it with landscapers. They come in here and they're like, "Oh man, I'm so busy. I've got all this work. This guy's being an absolute dick." I'm like, just tell him you're not doing the work. Oh, you can't do that. Why not? Like, what's created? And it's because it's that whole customer's always right bullshit that society has taught the kids that are now business owners, that you just do what customers tell you because they're always right. It's not true. The right customer's always right. But if they're an asshole, they're not right.
They're not right.
Not for you. They might. There's plenty of people that'll deal with dickheads.
Does right become subjective when there's big checkbooks attached?
Nope. So some of the customers that we don't deal with, and like there's a massive landscaper in South Australia. There's a few that we stopped dealing with 5 years ago that would have added potentially $500,000 to $1 million to our bottom line, and we close their account. So it's not. You can't put financial conditions on those values, because the reason those values exist is to protect you from making stupid decisions around financial, It becomes
a slippery slope too, doesn't it?
Once you say yes to... and like these... Like, if you talk to my guys, like, Chris has worked here for 8 years, and the only times he's ever thought to leave is because of the way he's been treated, either by a staff member or a customer.
Yeah, right.
It's not because that he doesn't get paid enough, or that he doesn't like the view from his office, or that he doesn't have enough lunch break, or whatever it is, it's because someone's been rude to him. And the first one, the person left before he did, and then the second one was a customer, and we closed their account. I'd rather have him than the customer.
I'd imagine that then, from the perspective of your staff, who you clearly highly value, I guess really feel supported by their leader as well.
They have to, because if a staff member doesn't feel that they've got your support, and as importantly, long-term employment, like safe, secure long-term employment, because you're not a rogue leader and you've got stable values, they will leave. Because a lot of these guys, a lot of them don't want to be business owners. They want to come and work for a cause they believe in, get paid a fair amount of money, and go home. And if you're either don't have their back or you don't have that stability, they don't feel comfortable, and they'll start looking.
Which I'd imagine publishing your 12 core values is goes a long way into creating that stability as well. I think everyone right off the bat, including your clients, by the sound of it,
they laugh at
they know exactly, but I think they would know exactly where they stand as well.
I think also for clients that we do deal with and that we do look after, they go, okay, that must mean I'm inside those values. I must be a good person, or our values are in line. Because it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a bad person if they're not in line with our values. Everyone has different values, and that's fine. That's why we have this planet. But we want to deal with people that have values in line with ours. You know how sometimes people will just be like, they just get it. You'll have a conversation like, I like that guy, he just gets it. That's your values being in line. So we can't have people deal with us that don't have their values in line, because we're like, he just doesn't get it. And it's not that he's dumb. He just has different values. And,
or values, even if they're not different.
Or any values.
Just any values.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, yeah.
I guess they're still values. Their values are take everything that's in front of you, even if it's not yours. Like, there's values. It's like, treat everyone like shit, it doesn't matter. But that's obviously something's happened to that person that's made them feel like they have to be like that.
As totally expected, we've completely departed from any railroad that I'd laid down. But
re-engage.
Well, no, I'm actually going to continue with that a little bit. So, with your, what kind of leader are you here?
I don't know how to answer that. I think you could probably ask my guys.
What kind of leader do you think you are?
I'm a tornado leader. Is that fair? Like, after I leave, everyone just goes, what the fuck just happened? But I guess, I don't know. It's really hard to answer. I try to be a clear communicator as much as possible. I try to be a fair leader. I'm probably sometimes overly verbal with everything. So I can be probably... There'd be a lot of people that couldn't work under me because of the way I talk to people.
It'd be personality clash type
They'd just be
stuff.
like, you can't say that to people. Like, I couldn't work... My wife works for a law firm, and it's like you walk into a library. Like, I'd breathe too loud. I would. So I couldn't work like that. I need chaos. I need there to be music playing and people yelling at each other. Like, I walk in here, and if you said stuff to people that you care about, like these guys say to each other, they'd leave. You'd lose them as a loved one, or you'd get arrested for the way you're talking to people. Like, it's a very colloquially, I don't know, diverse and blokey, and it's hard. Like, and it can't be like that forever. It'll be like what happened at Newton's. We'll need to mature as a business, but at the moment it's fun. And I walk in here and I hear the banter and I feel comfortable. I'm like, this is, because none of them mean harm to each other. So it's a fine line.
Yeah, keeping it in context as well.
Well, people, like, I'll give people shit like DK, and if anyone else said it to him, he might be like, what the fuck? Like, you can't say that. But I don't mean any harm. I care about these guys, and that's probably part of my personality. And it might get to a point where I can't do it, or I have to step away as CEO and put in a boring leader, just to drive the biggest ship.
I guess, you've been pretty clear that you want multiple locations, and I don't even know that you've suggested that maybe the state border isn't even a barrier.
Not at all. And to be honest, the border, the country is not a barrier. Yeah. If I was single and had no kids, it would be mental. And I don't want to put that on them as a burden. Like, it's not. I'm very happy that we've got kids and that I'm married, and it just changes the way I operate. I'm not the kind of director who will just go, wife, your problem, I'm off for a month consistently. Like, I'll travel, But yeah, I'd be dangerous, I think.
I think before we get onto the topic of Clint Adams, the dad, the family man.
You want a message from one of our sponsors?
Well, yeah. No, let's go right back to the start, though, the fluid design days.
Yep.
So, I mean, you sent through to me in preparation for this some company profiles to have a read of. And I saw an evolution even in those 2 years. I think there was 1 or 2 years between the two profiles.
Well, we were just moving as we needed to, yeah.
Yeah. But I think, you're a South Park fan?
Yeah. Well, and watched a lot of it, couldn't reference stuff. I remember, yeah.
Underpants gnomes?
No.
Phase 1, collect underpants. Phase 2, Phase 3, profit. No. And
it does sound like a good business idea.
Yeah, it was a fantastic episode. But, these underpants gnomes ended up with this massive pile of underwear because they hadn't worked out Phase 2.
Which was what, getting gnomes?
Well, no, Phase 2 is clearly I'm assuming it's the selling of the underpants. I don't know. There's some ambiguity around that.
Which is probably why it's funny.
Yeah, absolutely. But I would imagine that you don't have any issues with Phase 2. I feel like you've always had a clear path to, you've always strategized exactly where things are going to go. Mm. Does that sound
a lot of
accurate?
What I do is being made up on the spot. So
really?
I know that I needed to get this many sales, but there's no strict rule that it has to be around this. So one of my weaknesses, and you can ask my accountant about this, is my budgeting skills are atrocious. So our current financial year's budget's not finished. I know my sales. That's all I've ever cared about, is having the biggest sales number.
The biggest pile of underpants.
Never worried about the bottom line.
Yeah.
Which is selling them. I still sell those underpants. But a lot of it's being made up on the spot. Like that room, you saw the coffee machine's been moved. Jamie's like, okay, what are we doing in this room? I'm like, no idea. But I know that it'll come to me and it'll just happen, and then it's like I'll see a fridge for sale and I'll be like, that's for there, or someone will be like, hey, do you need a desk? I'll be like, yep, cool. So there's 100 pots of stew in my head bubbling away or more all the time, filled with ideas around Waterpro uniforms, my backyard, holidays with families, Jack's education, Celeste's happiness in our marriage, my car getting service, petrol, blah, 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 blah. Like, all that shit's going on. And so sometimes it'll take me longer to reply to a text or finish a budget or whatever, because I'm not happy that it's stewed enough, if that makes sense. So that room stewing, how did this question start? Do I have a clear direction?
I just feel like you've always had a clear direction, a clear pathway. I'd imagine Phase 3, Phase 3's maybe global domination.
Look, I don't know. I'm probably at a bit of another kind of tack where I need to decide what happens next, because I've got a really good business. I've got a great network of friends. I've got a healthy, happy family. Everything's really good in my life. Now, do I want to mess with that and take another risk? As with my kids being so young, like maybe I could nurse this for 5 years and be a massive part, because you know what it's like. I mean, how old's your oldest?
Turns 8 in a couple of days.
So they become less and less interested in. Well, I'm finding with Jack, he's 5, and he's okay with me, but he's becoming less interested in some other family members, and he just wants to do his shit. And he's not as like run and hug every time you see him. He's like, yeah, hey, like he's got his own shit going on. So I'm aware that I'm conscious of Connor and Lucy being like that in the next 5 years. So I want to make sure I am there for those run and hugs more, because they're not going to be there in 5 years or 7 years or 8 years.
I can completely relate to that.
Yeah, and they go to bed at this time. So yeah, I don't know. I'm probably need to do some kind of soul searching, meditating, have dinner with Gary V.
Yeah, we might touch on Gary V in a minute. Well, you've conversations between you and I previously. You've referenced Gary V quite a lot.
Yeah.
So, mental. Your mental time and refreshing mentally, as well as you've referenced Gary V as being a mentor a few times as well. Like I feel like that's something that you've relied on a lot. I'd imagine that. Do you read books? I
listen to audiobooks.
Listen to audiobooks. Yeah.
So I consume content visually and audibly. I don't like reading. I never did at school. I talked my way through most of school, which probably doesn't surprise you. I didn't read. I think I read the twits because they made us. And I think if the education system was catered to suit my learning techniques better, I probably would have gotten further into it. But Gary V gave me permission to be me, I think. And some people like him. Like, he's got a massive fan base, and some people think he's full of shit, and he doesn't really give a fuck. But I'm pointing because that's one of his shoes.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that later.
So, I guess I don't have much. I don't have other entrepreneurs in my network, and I don't have a lot of people in my... Like, if you imagine if I went to PAC or Scotch, or I don't even know what the names of these schools are, and all my friends' dads were business owners or whatever, right? Growing up, all my friends' parents were carpenters and worked at Myer and worked at the bank, and so their kids then grew up thinking, I'm going to be a whatever, or didn't know. Just went, I just want to finish school. Once I finish year 12, everything should work itself out. If I'd been surrounded by, I mean, look, sliding doors, you never know. I probably could have just become a professional, a lawyer, accountant, whatever. I didn't have that around me, so I don't have anyone to kind of go to and say, hey, what do you think the like a good number, like a wage percentage of turnover in an inventory-based business turning over $5 million would be like? Do you think you'd move your wages from 17 to 20% with the interest of like trying to grow some market share for that 3%? Like, no one, who do I talk to about that? So I just started listening and reading and listening. I had a business coach for a while, which I'm sure you'll probably touch on. So I didn't know who to talk to, and then I just kept consuming stuff. And Rob Cooper actually gave me a book called Built to Sell, which was the first book I was ever given as a business owner. And he's like, you'll love it. And I found it on audio, so I listened to it. So I've had the book, but I didn't read it. And then that funneled me into an accounting company, which was at the time Shear and Ellis, which is where Simon Starr was working, who was my business coach. And then you fill out a survey. It's just their way of getting you in. And then I ended up becoming a client of theirs. But then I started getting...
With the business coaching?
As a business coach, not accounting. I had another accountant at the time. And then he moved me into their accounting. So it was smart how they did it. But I've always been really cynical about the paid help space, because there is a lot of people out there selling shit that they don't understand. And so I've almost not spent money because I don't want to get hurt, whereas I should just be spending it and learning as I go. So the Gary Vee thing's free content, an unlimited amount, similar values to me, do the right thing, work hard, like, I like the fact that he's documenting it. That's why we're here. I like the fact that there's no secrets. Like, I want to have a clean sheet so that nothing can get caught out. I don't want there to be a moment in our future where someone goes, hey, this guy, all well and good, but he stole 100 grand off me. I can't have that. So he gave me permission to to be patient and not be too stressed about the fact that we're only doing X amount of dollars, when most people would dream of having their business. Well, not most people, but there'd be a lot of people that would be like, oh my God, if I could turn over that much money, I'd be set. So, yeah.
Was it him that was behind a video I think you posted a while ago on social media about the was it about the people lottery, or I think there's a people lottery about
he would have posted a video saying that you won the lottery, you're a human being. Like, you won in 4 trillion, I don't know what the number is, but the fact that you're a human being, you won. Like, what are you going to do about it? So that would be his video.
Celeste actually put Gary Vee on your ladder of love.
What's my ladder of love?
Yeah, so...
Did you contact Celeste?
I may have. So now I'm assuming
it's like a Bucks show or a wedding. Oh God.
I'm assuming that this is actually in order of preference.
Oh my God.
But
she's such a
so
dick.
the kids, then Waterpro, his car.
So this is my ladder of love.
Your ladder of love, his car, Gary Vee, Phil Collins, the dog, and then me being Celeste.
Yeah, I think that she left Eminem out.
Eminem? Yeah. M&M's or Eminem?
No, Eminem.
Where
Slim
would that
Shady,
be?
Marshall Mathers. I don't know.
Would you reorder that if you could?
Yeah, definitely. I don't like our dog, so our dog, you can cross the dog out.
Well, it's funny that both you and Celeste have just called the dog.
Yeah.
So does the dog have a name, or is it the dog?
His name's Lloyd.
Lloyd. Okay, so drop Lloyd to the bottom.
Yeah. I don't think we need a dog to make our family good. She does.
Okay.
Lloyd's her dog. So
okay,
I think that's her being a dick.
Do you want to keep Celeste down the bottom then, just to keep the dog and Celeste together? Or?
I think it would be fair to leave the kids as number one. I find it funny that people like, I love everyone the same. I can love my kids differently, and they can be number one. Celeste can be number two. I don't think it's fair that she's number 7.
This is her.
No, that's right, and I
yeah.
can't impose that on her. Gary V. It's hard. Waterpro is definitely up there, like, and it's a challenging balance for me sometimes to reconcile leaving my kids to come to Waterpro, because I know Celeste's fine, but there's times when I'm like, is this the best decision to be going and giving this time to a company over a child? So yeah, 1, the kids, 2, Celeste, 3, Waterpro, 4, my car, 5, Gary V, 6, Eminem.
Eminem at 6.
Especially now that his new album's out, he's back.
You like it?
Oh, I love it.
Really?
His new album motivated me to go to war again.
Really?
Oh yeah, and yeah, I like it. I like that kind of hip hop, like throw some shit at someone, take it back, like the battle. I like it. So I think that.
And he's a lyricist,
yeah,
linguist, whatever.
Yeah, and I don't have the skill set to do that in sport or music, but I think I've got the skill set to do it in business. So for me, that white line fever that people talk about, I only get that when I step out of the house and come into my business world.
To give you confidence to strike while the iron's hot, I feel like Waterpro in the last couple of years has always been in and around the right mark. I think like lawn porn was a pretty good example of that. You know, that felt to me like it was
good timing.
Like, it was perfect timing.
Yep.
It was there.
Yep.
It just sort of turned up one day, and
Well,
then
yeah, I reached out to them early,
yeah,
like 3,000 likes or 7,000 likes or something,
yeah,
and no one else was.
yeah.
I think that's probably the advantage of having a director-run company, no shareholders.
Yeah,
small
well,
company.
I think you know, the more top-heavy management is, I think the harder those decisions become.
Well, you
to make
imagine
them.
taking that to a board. Hey, we're going to sponsor a company with porn in the name, and you know, do videos and buy a camera and drive to Whyalla or fly here. Like,
Well, talk us through lawn porn.
so lawn porn was is a Facebook page that I started to see traction on. So obviously, I've spent a lot of time in the social media world. I spent a lot of time on Facebook, and I saw some movement. So I reached out and said, "Hey, what are you doing? Do you have a sponsor?" And he was like, "What do you mean?" I think he was still very young in the page and very young in business. I didn't understand.
And they were Adelaide based.
Yeah, he was in Whyalla at the time. And then, so we just started back and forth, and then we were sponsoring, so we'd pay to be like, with Facebook, you can pay to have a sponsored post, you can pay for a video, you could pay to be the cover photo, you could run competitions and pay for the rights to do that. So that was how it was operating. And then the page just exploded over that, probably the last growing season, so that kind of spring and summer. And then more people started noticing, so more money was coming in and more opportunity was coming in. And then it got to a point where I was involved in the operation of the business more. And then probably February, it would have been this for calendar year, it all fell apart, and lawn porn as a company's gone in one direction, and Clint Adams as an individual is not part of that direction.
Okay.
So we'd always sold fertiliser, not to the scale that lawn porn do, but we did sell a lot of lawn porn fertiliser in that first season. I wasn't happy with how it was handled, so I decided to start our own range.
Lawn Hub,
so that we've got a range to sell, because we do have customers coming in here buying fertiliser. I think I had a bottle, it's not here anymore. We used to sell, we had fertiliser bottle, we've still got them here from with our Stepney address on them.
Oh, really?
So we would have moved here 4 or 5 years ago. So we were selling fertiliser before, just not in any scale. You look at companies like Munns. I don't know if you guys have your own range of fertiliser. You probably should. But they have their own custom bags. It's just, it's like black and gold kind of, or like Woolworths Select or whatever they do. You have your own brand, you control it. So now we control that, the avenue to market for that. We control the way the brand's used, but when someone's looking to buy that, we're not competing on price as much as we are. We're not. Do you know what I mean? Like
I do, yeah.
everything else we sell, you can buy anywhere else, but
that's yours.
that's ours. So
Some cheeky branding.
yeah, and that's fun as well, and some customization. I'm a big fan of customization, so we'll continue to have, like, there's Amy's Wet there. That's one of our competition winners. So we put her name on the bottle. You could have, like, Carl got laid, and that could be fun. And so now I've got the printer, I've got unlimited potential to make labels, which I think it's funny.
Has anyone come to you with a customized label where even Clint Adams has gone, I'm not putting that on there?
There's no word that I'm not comfortable with. I think swearing, I'm fine with swearing. I'm fine with all the words. I'm fine with my kids saying all the words as long as they use them in context and they're not derogatory towards other people. Most people would disagree with me on that, but
Is what it is.
including my wife. But they're my kids and hers. But Jack knows not to swear around her, and he swears around me. And now he's 5 and he's got enough emotional intelligence not to swear around women, grandparents, other people, not be derogatory.
Good.
Not for everyone. So yeah, that's it. That's now I've got my own fertilizer range. So
Lawn Hub's now on social media as well. Has its own hub, its own.
We've
presence.
got a page following pushing close to 900. We are about to embark on a ridiculously intense Facebook marketing strategy with that. I don't like it when, if you tread on my throat, make sure you do a good job. Like, because when I get pushed down, I come back up pretty hard. And I've said it to DK before, I'm kind of a wartime general.
Yeah, you've mentioned that to me a few
times. I
times.
don't lead well. Like, everything's going good. I'm just like, oh man, what do I do now? I'll just go eat some burgers and drink beers and just wait for a tragedy. So it's bad because sometimes I think I let tragedies happen. Like maybe...
So things make sense?
We'll extend someone to the point where they owe us a lot of money and then go broke. And I'm like, all right, we need to go back to war, boys, because something bad's happened. And subconsciously I've allowed that to happen because I need bad to happen for me to move forward.
Wake up and do it.
So yeah, the lawn porn deal was a handshake deal. And handshake deals are only as good as the person that's on the other hand. And so when that fell apart, there's no legal recourse. You can sue someone, but what are you going to say to the judge? Hey, he shook my hand. I'm like, oh, that's cute. Well, hopefully it was warm because that's all you're going to get.
I can say from the outside looking in, I was unaware of any of this stuff. So I think you've done a pretty good job of...
I didn't want it to be too... I think it's important for the people that are involved to know why I'm doing it. The byproduct of that is that the end user gets a really high quality product at a competitive price because I don't care if I make money on that. That's about revenge. That's not about... That's why that's called envy, because it's a play on words. They're all plays. If you drill into all these names, you start... Like, if you really know, you'll really know.
I might have a crack at solving those puzzles later.
So, but I was also conscious not to encroach on any, branding, because I could have just used all the same names and whatever else, but I wanted Lawn Hub to be its own entity and still have be a fun play on words, because I think that's cool.
Probably opens up avenues as well. I mean, if that was Waterpro branded, I guess then it really only makes sense being pushed through a
here,
Waterpro.
that's right. So that's its own website, it's its own Facebook page. I've got a Facebook marketing guy working on that exclusively. He doesn't have anything to do with Waterpro's marketing. We're going up to Brizzy in 2 weeks for the Australian Lawn Fanatics. They've got a Lawn Fest at a turf farm, so that should be pretty cool. And so I'll be talking a bit about that, but there's a lot of fertilizer companies out there, and there's a lot of companies that will sell the same stuff we sell more as at lower cost. So you've kind of got lawn porn up here at X dollars per kilo, Lawn Hub here at half X per kilo, and then generic fertilizer at a quarter X per kilo. Now that generic fertilizer and that fertilizer and that fertilizer is all the same fertilizer. The difference is that's got national branding, radio bullshit, and someone making lots of money. That's got, we need to buy this and split it up and cover the cost. And this has got, we are a national or international fertilizer company selling bulk amounts. So you could buy Trojan in 20 kilo bags from someone for say $65, or you buy a 5 kilo tub from us for $19.95. You might not need 20 kilos. It's not for everyone, but I think it's just important for consumers to be aware of what's out there. I mean, people aren't stupid. The internet's making the world smaller and smaller and smaller. You want fertilizer, people can buy whatever they want.
So devoted father,
Definitely.
loving father of 3.
Yep.
Husband?
That I know of. Yep.
Yeah.
No, I've always
How do you balance it all out? Because you're always busy, you know. I'd imagine you have a tendency to take work home.
Every day.
Yeah, and I don't just mean taking the actual work home.
No, I'm working all the time.
Bringing it home.
100%.
Yeah.
I think if Celeste could, if she had I guess one wish from a fairy, it would be that I didn't do any work in the walls of the house for a period. So like phone goes away, but I guess that's something that I'm conscious of and I need to work on. If I'm awake, I'm thinking about lots of stuff. It's not just work, but it's predominantly work because everything else kind of takes care of itself. Our kids go to childcare. That's pre-booked. They go there, they get picked up, they get dropped off. Like I don't have to think about that. I just have to make sure I'm there for that time and there for that time. But the amount of different things that can happen in a work day aren't planned. So, but yeah, like if we had a call, right? Like obviously my phone's not on, but if the guys needed me, they would come in. If Celeste called, I'd go. Like it's not. Nothing takes precedent over their safety, I guess.
So Celeste described you as a fun, lovable, annoyingly witty, painful, stubborn, and driven, and will do anything to anyone close to him. Do anything for anyone close to him.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. Like, I guess you asked earlier about my leadership. For the people that are inside my inner circle, I'll do anything, like anything, to my own detriment. And I don't expect anything in return. On the flip of that, if you shit on me, we're going that way. So yeah, like and there's plenty of other examples. There's not plenty. There's probably 4.
How do you fill up your time with your kids? The time that you do get away from work. What do you do to get the most out of being a dad?
Early, like when we just had one, it was easy. Me and Jack would go to the plaza and have we'd eat food and play games and go to Civic Park and all this other shit. Now that we've got 3 kids and 2 of them are the same age, it's really hard to do anything as a dad with all 3, especially because Connor and Lucy are at an age now, like they're 20 months old or whatever the exact months are. We'll say 1.75, and you can't do anything because as soon as anything falls off the cliff, it's a meltdown, and then you've got 2 having a meltdown. Like I remember with Jack, I'd go shopping with him under my arm, right? Like I'd just carry him, and you'd have like if Celeste went shopping, she'd pack a bag, and I'm like, if he shits, he's holding on to that shit for the time that we're there. But at the moment, we spend most of the time we're together, we're at home. So Jack loves watching YouTube, and Connor and Lucy just love throwing shit around, and they're young. So in time, I hope it'll be easier to take all 3 and have them listen to me and walk the direction that the whole herd's walking, because it's
The two youngest ones, the twins, are they very different?
Very, very different. And obviously one's a boy and one's a girl. Connor is he's really witty. He's got a lot of those attributes that you had just described me with. He is stubborn, and Lucy's kind of like a lot more chill. Kind of watches the world. Like it's going to be interesting to watch them grow, and I guess after having twins helps you appreciate that people are born a certain way, and that nature versus nurture argument is definitally nature with some nurture.
Yeah, I agree. I actually wanted to touch on the nature versus nurture thing, and every time I hear of twins, I always ponder, how different,
because you can see their personalities really early. Like you can see any kid's personality. You can see if they're going to be cheeky or witty or fun or quiet, or like Jack never liked reading, and Connor, anytime there's a book, he'll like grab it and has to look at the pictures, and his understanding of language is insane. Like he talks, Lucy doesn't. So, and that's a danger as well, because you start to compare the two because they're the same age and they were born 2 minutes apart. So, why isn't she talking, but why is he? Which is not fair on anyone. But they definitely got their own unique personalities, and obviously those personalities, it's our responsibility as parents not to fuck that up. Like you've got this canvas with some paint on it, finish the painting well, don't fuck it up. Yeah. So, but how do you do that?
Well, some canvases are probably more prone to the different paints anyway.
Yeah. So we're lucky. We've never had trouble. Like I'm really lucky. Like you know, I guess from a death standpoint, I've had nothing tragic. You know, our kids had no health issues. We had, I mean, Celeste had to deal with childbirth. I didn't have to even deal with that and just be there. Like,
yeah. Except for during the epidural, I hear.
What's that?
Except for during the epidural, I you beelined it out of the...
I didn't want to watch a needle go into her back. No, I wasn't comfortable with that. Yeah. But that was a pretty crazy time. I think she just had a 13-hour labour and then...
You wouldn't swap, would you?
No way,
no,
man.
I mean,
if I had to have kids, I wouldn't have kids. That's why men can't have kids.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm alone. Like, no way.
I shouldn't say I wouldn't swap. I think it's... I'm certainly not envious of how kids are brought into the world.
You know, it's all you know. I mean, if you grew up knowing that as a male you were capable of having children, and when you're older it was your responsibility. If you wanted to have children, you had to be the one that had them. You'd probably look at it differently. Yeah.
It's a life-changing moment for you becoming a dad for the first time?
Yeah, I think so. I think it puts a clock on things a bit differently. I think prior to having Jack, I was just cruising, doing whatever. Still don't have as much regard for my own personal health and welfare, but more now with kids. And now Jack's 5. So where did those 5 years go? And what have we done to further advance our goals and family ambitions and happiness and, you know.
So talking about health, one of the things that you've been really open with on social media has been your battle with your weight and general health.
I don't even think it's a battle anymore.
Yeah.
I think that castle's been taken. I've just put the white flag up.
Yeah. You know, and there's some real evidence there that you worked really hard. I mean, you don't have to flick back too far back through some of your profiles to see some photos of you, and you know you lost a lot of weight. That must have been a lot of hard work. Was that as a result of being a dad? Do you think that was about sort of getting a better handle on yourself physically? And
I don't think it probably was coincidental that it was at a similar time. I mean, you
spoke about alcohol a bit as well.
Yeah, the alcohol's been a massive part of my life for a long time. And probably most of the good things and the bad things that I've ever achieved have been tied directly to alcohol. So building Waterpro to the stage that it's at was heavily covered by alcohol. And any time I've been mean or rude to someone, it's probably been heavily tied to alcohol. So along
with the physical health effects as well.
Yeah, which I don't even... That's the funny thing. Like I don't think about that. I think about did I hurt someone's feelings. I don't think about is my liver about to pack it in. But Gary V, to refer back to him, has a full-time health employee. Right now, I'm very close to having a full-time health employee and a full-time assistant. Even if that meant I had $0 left, I think that the gain that I would get from it would make more money than it would cost, and that I don't ever see myself having enough mental attention given towards the preparation of food for me to eat healthy. That's part of the identifying. I guess Gary Vee talks a lot about identifying your weaknesses and then working it out. I don't mind eating the healthy food. I'm just not going to make it, and I'm not going to go get it. And Uber don't deliver poached chicken and rice. Uber deliver crunchy chicken burgers. And if you want to, there's a good way to find out about a man. Log into their Uber account.
Can you do that?
Well, I could show you my history, but I would spend $200 a week on Uber.
Oh, really?
So I could probably almost employ a chef to make me food.
Yeah,
that's not including the food we buy for our house.
Yeah.
So it's something I need to deal with. Every time I go to deal with it, some more time goes past. I'm like, I'll just do it after the footy season. I'll just do it after I turn my birthday. I'll just do it after this. I'll just do it after Christmas. And it just kind of disappears, and all of a sudden...
Do you recognise, just getting back onto your kids, do you recognise that they're the products of the way that you
100%.
sort of treat them and deal with them?
We're having trouble with Jack and his eating at the moment because he doesn't want to eat anything except white and yellow food, and that's just learnt behaviour.
How many white and yellow foods are there?
You have egg whites, rice, pasta, chips. There's a lot. Well, there's not a lot, but there's enough to cover his nutritional requirements to a point. He doesn't like the yellow and white foods that are healthy though, like banana and anyway.
Backstage in the green room, we were talking about your childhood growing up.
Yep.
You have spoken previously about, being the sum of all parts. Your mother and your father's influence as well.
Yep.
Who, my understanding is that you grew up with your parents not living together.
100%. So mum and dad got divorced when I was 2. So how old was 2? Well, I might not have even been 2. I might have been under 2. So yeah, dad would see us. Well, only see me, I think, in the early stages once a fortnight for 2 days. Excuse me. So yeah, I was predominantly brought up by my mum and my sister, and my mum and I were the only ones living in the house. So I was brought up by women more than men. So didn't have that kind of, jockey footy. I mean, even then, my dad's not that kind of guy. Like, we wouldn't have gone to footy games and gone fishing and whatever else because, I don't know. I mean,
wouldn't have done it anyway.
I don't think so. I think, if you asked my stepmom to write down, I guess, an explanation of what my dad's like, you'd probably see some pretty similar descriptions in that, driven, stubborn, so cares about the people inside his circle, and if you tread on his throat, watch out. But so mum, predominantly, a lot of time with mum, until I moved out, really. So just saw dad on weekends, which was hard because it was always dad and my sister and my stepmum. It was never just one-on-one.
So on the business side of things, a lot of your dad's attributes are there, that sort of that real driven focus type thing, but then empathy and all those other bits and pieces, your mum's side, do you think?
And look, not to say that dad's not empathetic, but I didn't spend much time, like, if dad and I talk about stuff, it's probably business, especially considering, ever since I moved out of home, I've run a business, whether it been mine or someone else's. And I probably didn't go to dad enough in the early days with questions because he's been through all this. Like, he's run a business, a very successful business. He chose to do it without staff, and I've chosen to do it with staff, but it's still a successful business. And my stepmom said it to me like months or years, like in the last 12 months. You can talk to your dad about this. Like, he's been through it, and it doesn't register because I didn't watch it. Like, I wasn't at home with dad coming home and being like, oh, today at work or today.
This happened, yeah.
I just didn't know about it. Like, mum did the best she could in the situation that we were in, and she was always there because she was either working part-time or was being on the pension because, single mum, 2 kids, through 82 to 95 or that's the primary school years. So yeah, business wasn't, I didn't know anything about it. So,
and do you think that your relationship with your kids is somehow influenced by your childhood, your upbringing?
I think anyone who says it
trying to fill in gaps as well.
Well, I guess mum and dad couldn't stay together, so they didn't have a successful marriage, but they've both got successful lives. I think, if anything, I'm trying to make sure that I have a successful life and maintain our successful marriage that we chose. And I don't advocate for any parents to stay together for the sake of their kids. I think if you're not in love, you need to separate, and how you handle that separation is key. And they were good. Mum, the whole way along, it's like, it's not because mum and dad don't love you, they just don't love each other, and this is what they've had to do. And she, as much as mum probably would have liked to talk badly about dad and the situation, she never did. It was always like, these kids need to grow up and make their own decisions around what they want. So I guess the time that I spend with my kids, it'll play out. I don't know. I definitely, you're impacted by life, aren't you? Like,
of course.
So yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And you and Celeste, starting up a startup business takes a lot of time. You and Celeste are good partners in the whole of approach. There's the business side, and then there's the family side as well. Yep. And collectively, your family unit are supporting both of those things.
Yeah.
You and Celeste make great partners.
I think so. I think sometimes Celeste and I feel like we're like housemates more than husband and wife because we're living such fast pace. Like she still works 3 to 4 days a week with our kids, and we co-parent. I don't know how the balance would go. We co-parent, and I guess from a home chores point of view, she'd probably run 80% of what happens, up to 100% some days. So she's working 3 days a week and running the household, and then I'll come in for 10 to 20% depending on like what requirements. I'm talking like cooking, bins, dishwasher. I don't want to cook, I don't want to clean, I don't want to put washing out. Like if I had my way, that's why I was saying like if I was a single man with no kids, I would be dangerous because I'd have a cook, a cleaner, a full-time health coach, and I'd just run business and make enough money to cover all that shit and then have my leisure. Celeste's more old school. She's like, if you choose to have a house, then you need to look after it. If you choose to have children, then you need to feed them yourself. If you choose to have clothes, you need to wash them yourself. Like, so there's always a battle there, but
Battle or good balance? I mean, it sounds to me like it's a good balance.
I want a cleaner, and she doesn't.
Okay.
So that's a battle. So what was the conversation went, I think we should get a cleaner, and she's like, we're not getting a cleaner. I'm like, cool, you clean then. And she's like, no, we share that. I'm like, let's get a cleaner. She's like, no, you do half, I'll do half. I'm like, I'll pay for my half to get done. She's like, we're not getting a cleaner. So yeah, and it's all fun, but yeah, I probably don't. Celeste and I don't get enough time, just us two. But I think we also feel guilt around asking for more help. You know, like saying to grandparents, hey, can you look after 3 kids, like, and 2 18-month-olds or 1-year-olds or whatever it was at the time, so that we can just go drink wine for a day. We chose to have the kids. So I think as the kids get older, we'll probably find that, I hope, that we'll spend more time as husband
Doing
and
those
wife
things.
again and friends. At the moment, it feels like we're both like CEO and managing director of our family, and it's just meeting at board meetings, which is at the dinner table. Like, there is so much shit that we haven't covered that you just cross 2 ships in the night. Like last night, I got home, bathed the kids, she was out off to the gym, she got home, I'm on my computer trying to deal with some other shit, and then it's just like, so
You high five on the way past and that's it.
yeah. Even that, like some nights you don't even, like, I'll just be like, oh, she's asleep, all right, cool. I'll see you tomorrow. But, and you know, I start at 7 here sometimes, so then you've got to get out and get the kids up and
Netflix, any Netflix shows that you indulge in? Do you sort of go home and sharpen the tool by just not thinking about stuff?
I did. So I don't like watching commercial television. I think the more I get into marketing, the more I see it for what it is, and I'm just like, this is ridiculous. Like, the shows,
Foodware is heavily dominated
and
by
the sales
reality.
and but it's not reality. They call it reality TV.
Sorry, reality
Yeah.
TV. Yeah.
Like, in what reality do you get to choose to have 10 chicks come and live with you, and you can make out with all of them until you choose one of them to marry you? Like, that's not reality TV. But it works. The marketing's good. The producers get great tiers, and they get the fans and all. So I prefer to watch, I guess, TV series. The last series I watched would have been Suits and Billions.
Suits is good.
And Suits and Billions are good because I'm like, I'm him.
You relate to
you
that.
know, that's me. And then you kind of get motivated, and then it's dangerous because you could always tell. Like, if my guys would always be able to tell if I watched an episode of Suits the night before, because I'm like, we're going to take over these guys and we're going to do this. But
Harvey Specter style.
yeah. So who was it? Oh, Dion, my accountant. Him and I talk about Suits a lot, and I'm like, you're Mike, and he's like, no, you're Mike. I'm like, no, you're Mike. So,
Accountant has to be Mike.
Yeah.
Surely. Yeah.
well, it depends on how good your accountant is, I guess. But so, and Billions with The Rock, love watching that. But I've tried not to get into any more series because my personality type is such that if I start watching them, I won't stop until
You're
it's finished.
a binge watcher.
And I won't even come in. You'll just lose me for 48 hours, and I'll have it done, and then I'll be done, and off we go again. So I watch YouTube a lot.
Yeah.
If I'm at home with Connor and Lucy and Jack's not there, I'll just have Gary Vee playing in the background, or Casey Neistat, or any one of those people that are just producing fun content around business. Or Casey's really just a vlog,
Which gives you a bit of a mental edge as well.
Gary Vee, to a point. I mean, there's not much new stuff that you can. I could do his keynote. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've listened to his shit so much that I could get up and say all the stuff. I couldn't answer the questions, but so I'm kind of running out of content I'd love to find another Gary Vee. It would be insane, but I don't think there
Who's
will.
Gary Vee's Gary Vee, do you know?
He doesn't have one openly. His mum,
Okay.
basically. So he attributes his success to the upbringing of his dad being a hard worker and his mum giving him permission to be himself and being an unbelievable mum. So
I feel like you're pushing yourself down a path where, you know, there's obviously in the background there's Clint Adams, the dad and the husband,
Yep.
and there's Clint Adams, the business operator, and
Yep.
all the other things that we've spoken about. But then there's also this element of, you know, Clint Adams. I don't know if you connect with the word entrepreneur or the title entrepreneur.
I don't mind the
but,
word. I
you
think
know,
some people
entrepreneur,
have
but
this,
also
like,
but
weird,
also social media. You know, social media. Maybe not celebrity yet, but
Yeah.
you know, social media identity,
micro identity.
well, an identity, yeah. You know, I feel like you maybe have aspirations to, you know, pick the ball up and run with that a little
Definitely, and any time I get an opportunity to speak, I'll take it. I think this month, later, it might be a week or two, I'm actually speaking at the Mawson Lakes Gardening Club, and that was booked a year ago. Matt's like, "Oh, they want you to speak." I'm like, "I'll do it now." And he's like, "No, October next year." I'm like, oh,
bit.
"Okay." So
It blurs the lines though between, you know, your personal life and your professional life when you put certain elements of, you know, of your you frame certain elements of your professional life as being personal,
yeah,
and then you put that out there for everybody.
I think that I need to set some clear rules around it, and I haven't yet. Gary Vee, you won't find photos of his kids at all. Like, he decided not to put his kids or his wife into the public eye. And because he gives so much, everyone respects that and doesn't ask. They're like, he's given us everything. That's what he wants to keep to himself. I'm not as concerned about that. And Jack's expressed interest in becoming a YouTuber. So that's a conversation Celeste and I have to continue to have. I've spoken to people like DK about that, because DK has YouTube fame
Experience in it, yeah.
and has experienced the pitfalls of that and the joys of that. But DK is also an adult and can make his own decisions around his personal safety. Now, what's the risk of Jack becoming a YouTube star?
Which there's
at
quite
7
there's quite a lot of young kids out there who have millions of followers.
and millions of dollars,
Yeah,
because they go hand in hand.
yeah, they do.
And then, you know, one or two crazy people that want to go kidnap them or hurt them or take a photo of them and aren't conscious of the social boundary of not waiting outside their house to do it. So
with a child who can't reconcile that either.
no, and that's all they've ever known. I mean, we've grown up in a world, like, if I became famous in any manner as a 36-year-old or a 35-year-old, then that's cool, because I've experienced life and I know how to deal with that, and I know how to turn it off, and I know not to go certain places at certain times. Like, I've got enough intelligence around that, or experience. Jack doesn't, so it's, as I said before, it's our responsibility as parents not to damage that painting. It's hard. Like, if I don't let him do it and then he misses out, or if I do let him do it and it hurts him forever, like, what do? You'll never know the alternative. But
So Waterpro, if we saw a series on Netflix on Waterpro, are we talking reality or are we talking enacted?
no, it would be The Office,
It'd be The Office.
but
yeah.
live. It would be a vlog. It'd be more DKs and just catching these idiots doing stupid shit. I'd love to do that. I think that it'd be good for DK to capture some more of that, but I'm not sure that all of our staff are comfortable with the camera. I think there'll be a point where any new staff that come on, part of the onboarding process will be like, look, if you're not comfortable with film, this is probably not the place for you. If you're not comfortable with a rogue director, this is probably not the place for you. If you're not comfortable with changes of decision at short notice, this is probably not the place for you. But yeah, that would be, I think it would be not like Big Brother, but like just have cameras everywhere in the shop and just capture crazy
So
conversations.
far more actually real reality.
Oh yeah, well, why not? Like, I mean, we could easily curate this content completely differently, and there's just this, like, me wearing a tie and like, hi, I'm Clint from your friendly Waterpro store, and this is what doesn't happen. Like, but then someone will see me in the street and be like, "Hey, dude," like, I'm drunk somewhere. They're like, "You're a lot looser in real life than on your videos." And why do your staff swear in the shop, but on the videos it's all real straight and narrow? So I couldn't do it that way.
Fair enough. We spoke just earlier about Gary Vee, and you pointed to the shoes. Now, one thing that I think maybe the the viewers of this or the listeners wouldn't know. Well, actually, this is probably really only set up for video. We've got listeners here not being able to see what we're pointing at, but behind us is the trophy cabinet. So you've told me before that every item on this cabinet has some significant relevance for you and how you got here.
Most do.
Most do. Yeah. I mean, admittedly, I think I put something.
There's
on
a
there
bag
this morning,
of rolled oats down there. That's
Yeah, but the shoes was one that you were the most proud to.
They were hard to get.
Yeah.
So Gary V, I guess in true Gary V style, decided to start his own shoe range with K-Swiss, and that specific shoe is a size that fits me, which is a challenge because I've got a size 14 foot, and they're a limited edition. I don't know how many sold. Do you know? Like 1,000? No, it wouldn't have been many. Very limited. So I had to bid for that on StockX. But I didn't. I wanted to get a size that fit me, so because I could have bought a size 9 or a size 10 easy. So I bought them. I don't know. I just a couple of reasons. One, I wanted them, and if I want something, I just go get it. Two, I wanted to kind of have something limited, which is good from him. I think it was his 001. Is that his 001? I reckon it is. I think that was his first shoe. I reckon that's his first shoe. He had the 01s and the 02s at the same time. And then there was the yellow and black one, which was crushing it. So the clouds and dirt, he just had unlimited quantities and whatever. And it was, I guess, to say thank you. Like, and as he's always said, he puts so much shit out for free. When he asks for something in return, he doesn't expect people to say yes, but he kind of expects that everyone says yes. Do you know what I mean? Like, he won't be upset that they say no. And I think a lot of the things that I do as a business owner run in parallel, and I didn't know what it meant. Like, I do stuff for people without expecting anything in return, and then every now and then I'll ring up and go, hey, we've just started selling some fertilizer, would you like to buy some? And people go, yeah, of course, man, like, if it helps you, that's great, we'll do that. So I bought them. I guess firstly I had to build the shelves so that I had a backdrop. This is completely ripped off from Gary V. He's got shelves like this behind his podcast, and a similar coloured table and similar chairs. His microphones are better. So I've actually built this shelf.
Did you?
Yeah, really, really badly. If you look at it, don't look at it too much, but I didn't know that you had to mix thinners with varnish. So I just painted the varnish on. So this is the shit that I didn't get taught growing up. I don't know that. So I just started putting it together. And that's very much ready, fire, aim. I just started building it to the point that I ran out of fittings. So the top fitting, you can see there's a black threaded riser up there. I just ripped that out of the irrigation shop and just made that because, so the shoes are honestly a tip of a hat to Gary, and if anyone's watching that knows Gary, they'll see it. They'll be like, oh, okay.
Are you the kind of guy that would buy 2 pairs so you can wear a pair and have a pair?
If I could,
you couldn't
definitely.
Get them.
No way, man.
Would you ever wear those?
I'm probably going to wear them. I'm having dinner with Gary V on October the 18th.
Okay.
So I might.
Have you met Gary before?
No. You don't meet Gary V.
Right.
So, well, you do. He's pretty accessible, but not that kind of meeting. So I might wear them to that and get him to sign them for me.
Nice.
There's no likelihood I'll ever sell them. So, like, I don't need the money. So why not wear them? Why not wear them, but in a very specific, like, wear them, put them back in the box. So I don't know. I've never been a shoe guy, so. Like guys that had all the Jordans. And did you ever have that kind of shit?
No, not really. I mean, I'm wearing a pair of silver Reebok pumps right now. Pretty proud of those. They're not easy to find.
I had Reebok pumps.
Yeah.
My mum, when she married for the second time, went to San Francisco and bought me back some Reebok pumps. I don't know where they are now, but.
Do you sneens? Do you wear sneakers and jeans? You're wearing sneakers and jeans. Nice.
Proudly.
Yeah. Because I've got a rule that says that if you wear sneakers and jeans, like, you need to have 2 things.
Kids?
No. One is gout, and the other one is a doctor's certificate.
There's a good chance I've got gout. I don't have the doctor's certificate. Yeah, I don't know how that came about. I've always, like, I think a traditional Waterpro uniform was jeans with like Vans or like a casual shoe, which I think I've got some lying around.
But would you call that jeans and sneakers though, like a
Well, not
casual
when they're
shoe? You have to
black.
define sneakers.
No, it has to be. They have to be Asics, New Balance, Nike. They can't be. Yeah, they can't be like generic, like SB, whatever those Dunlops are. Like, it has to be a shoe that is designed for
running.
Running
in the section that says joggers.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can be as critical of the Sneens if they're not white New Balances. I think, and that's what my dad wears. I have to get a photo for
Another ones you mean?
He loves
the white
it.
ones.
He
with the
loves
big
it. And if
blue
they
M on.
get dirty, he buys new ones.
Really?
Like, yep. I don't know what he does with the old ones. He should donate them to charity. I think he goes through a few pairs. So he used to wear Adidas Roams.
Yeah, my dad used to wear Adidas Roams as well, and it was
Do you know
shopping.
what they are?
Oh, well, I mean,
They're if they brought them out now,
they'd
they'd
brain
be
it.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like they're like a casual, like the tiger. What are they called? An Agasika or whatever.
Whatever they are.
The Asics Tigers. They're like that, but they're a white shoe with just 3 blue stripes on them.
And that's it.
80s,
A
like,
bit Run DMC-ish.
yeah.
Not quite as big.
Dad used to love them, but like
All dads used to love them.
yeah.
You
Well,
should love them. Your dad. You do love them. Your dad.
I just want the shoes, but I can't get them because I'm a size 14, so I can't buy. Like, for me to buy shoes, and this has been a problem since I was probably 12 or 14. I'd walk into a shoe shop and say, "Can you bring out all the 14s, please?" And then I'd have that was my choice. It wasn't like, "Hey, man, that's a wicked shoe. Can I have that?"
No.
So yeah, I got a bit of a chip on my shoulder about shoes. So I usually just buy them online.
Look, there's a lot of things we haven't covered today. There's also a lot of things we have covered. What I would like to round it off with is there's always that proverb about the plumber has the leaky tap. There's this expectation that I've got a jungle at my house.
Yeah, and I know one would be surprised if you don't.
Yeah, I would imagine that your place is an oasis with
No.
water bubbling out of whatever model
Yep.
Hunter pop up everywhere. No.
No, not at all. We haven't landscaped yet, so when it's done, it'll be done. But no, I don't actually have an irrigation system. I don't even think I have a tap in the backyard, to be honest. I think that we started ripping stuff out and there's just a bent pipe. So it's weird. I love business, and irrigation is the business that I chose, but I'm not obsessed with it. There's probably more people in the market that are more suited to be the spokesperson for irrigation. Matt, who works here, is definitely more educated in irrigation.
Technical guy?
Yeah, a lot of the guys are. Matt's really good, but Chris and Brandon and
It's actually
Darren,
becoming very
Simon.
technical orientated too, isn't it? This industry.
I think it always has been. I just think that no one's been watching.
Okay.
Now with the explosion of Facebook groups and online business, the information's all out there. But then a little bit of information can be dangerous, and all of a sudden people think they're a professional. And you'd see that in horticulture or landscaping, especially master landscapers. As soon as you've done a bit of paving, you're now a landscaper. So, no, my backyard is not very watery, and even when we do it, it'll be pretty vanilla. Obviously, I've got access to anything I want. We won't have the most advanced controller. We probably won't have any rainwater tanks. We won't have any pumps. It'll do the job that it needs to do.
How long will this take?
I don't know.
Celeste is asking me to ask this question.
18 months.
18 months? Nice. Well, you've heard that, 18 months.
Yeah, from whenever this gets released. Which I have full control over.
Or there's a chance that last little bit might just get edited out of the tape.
Dude, I've got we had a shed approved, and I just didn't read the letter. Apparently I have to send it to the shed company, so it's just sitting somewhere. And he's worked with me long enough to understand that that's just normal. Like, I don't read it. So my ideal world, I don't read and I don't write. I don't type emails. I just have someone there and I say, do this, do this, do this. Like, my strategies are insane. I just don't want to do it.
Do you have a PA?
Jamie is, but she's also tasked with full-time admin. So she's like payroll, invoices, receiving, like everything. And then she has to deal with my bullshit. And you imagine the kind of requests you get from me. Like, yeah. So we talked about it during last week. I'm going to just hire an assistant. It's just whether or not Jamie will then step up and be my full-time assistant, and then she'll have an assistant, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I'm not achieving anywhere near, like this, I don't know if I could put a percentage on it. I'm probably achieving 20% of what I'm capable of. That's pretty crazy.
You're achieving 20% of what you're capable of.
Easily. If not less. Maybe
so
10.
Find ways to get the extra out.
Yeah, so like I know that I could be, like I've got a journal here somewhere. I should read it.
We've spoken about that before. I call mine my brain book.
This, like, I don't know if I can read it all because it's pretty, like, pretty full on. So Jamie bought me this. This might not even get used, but so she bought me this journal because she's like, you need a journal. So what was the first? I wrote some stuff about. It's funny. So this is like here. It's funny how I know exactly the best way to get the most out of myself, and yet I continue to self-sabotage for whatever reason. I'm sure it has something to do with my past or my childhood, but knowing is only half the battle. Actually acting on it is the key. Like there's some good shit in here. So, yeah, I think if I can, I've identified probably what I think I need. I just have to go and do it. I've just been reluctant to hire. Like we've got so many staff. Like you think about.
Because we've a dozen
12
staff.
people, and then then hire an assistant and then a health person, like someone just to make food. Like how self-indulgent is that as well? Like what does this guy do? Makes sure that there's salad next to me all the time. That's it. Yep. So that role could be one role. So someone to basically do all my shit and make me lunch.
How do you advertise that role?
With a video.
To add some... Yeah,
on
add some relevance to it.
You do a video on Facebook and target it to what you want. And what I can't say who that target market is because you can't target market people. But yeah.
I think I understand.
Well, you can target ages, you can target sex, you can target location. I would probably target the location because it's convenient.
Yeah, fair enough. I think like we've been talking for a long time.
Yep.
I
How
reckon.
long has it? I enjoy these. Yeah, that's not that long.
How long?
Well, let's just say it's not a space capsule length. So I think we're at an hour and 20. Would that be right?
Hour and 40.
Oh Jesus!
Well,
we're pushing space capsule length.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can shoot for it if you want.
Testing I've got nowhere to be, man.
Well, I mean, I would be really interested in knowing two things, I guess. The future of this business.
Yep.
I know we've spoken about how you would like to roll it out multiple locations.
Definitely.
Even right back in the early days with Fluid Designs, I think you had the aspirations of 3 businesses or 3 locations within
on
2
the
years,
wall.
whatever it was. Yeah,
it was. We had some pretty lofty goals back then, and to be honest, Michael was really good at setting big goals. I haven't continued that on, and I probably should spend more time on that because I think part of the reason that I don't move as much as I need to is because I haven't reset my goals. So it's still the intent to have another shop in SA, and we're getting asked about it more and more down at Lonsdale. It was always the intention to have Stepney, Gawler or Salisbury and Lonsdale, and we did have Salisbury. We had 2 shops for a while, and it
Did you?
didn't work.
Whereabouts?
On Saints Road at Salisbury Plains. So that was a 2-year lease, and we ran that lease and closed it. But Melbourne interests me as much as anything else because of how how big their economy is and how much money is going into high-end residential landscaping over there compared to here. And this business was a high-end residential landscape supplier as much as a commercial landscape supplier first. So, I'm not going to try and reinvent the wheel. Like, I only know one trick, and that's sign your landscapers and let it roll. So, but Melbourne's also got a very strong Waterpro style business in Melbourne.
Do they? So there's blood in the water?
Well, I've met with the owner of the shops, and I mean, who knows? Like, we'll continue to talk. We've not talked about anything. We've had lunch together, and
would you look at relocating staff from here to head that
to Melbourne? 100%. And I've got a guy working for me now who wants to move to Melbourne as soon as it's possible.
Wow.
So yeah, and that's good because it means I've got someone that's lived the Waterpro values and that I trust. So it would be hard to just not be there. I honestly, and that probably the family thing is what would keep it from happening, because I don't think you can start a new state without the director being there. I think I'd have to be there.
Or in and out a lot.
Well, you'd be flying there every week, yeah. So, which is fine. It's only Melbourne. That's why Melbourne's appealing, because it's close. I mean, I can fly to Melbourne in the same time that I can drive.
To Lonsdale.
Obviously, you've still got to deal with airport parking and whatever else, but it's not that far. But ultimately, if I could flick a switch, I'd probably be living in northeast Queensland and have a shop up there and have the whole family up there. So,
what's in northeast Queensland that
warm weather?
For you personally, you want the warm weather, or is it a business thing?
Nope, just me.
Okay.
I'm happiest when the sun is out. So July, August and September, or half of June, July, August and half of September, I just don't like being here. I slip into this kind of, I don't give a shit, not doing anything. So
unless it's wartime.
Yeah, if we have a winter war, then let's do it. But I just like it when it's warm. You know, I'm more comfortable in 35. Definitely more comfortable at 35 and 40 degree temperature than I am at 15.
You play golf?
I have played golf in the past. I set a goal to get to a single figure handicap and didn't get there in the kind of 60 days that I'd allowed, so I stopped. So, yeah.
Because, I mean, you can play golf most of the year up in...
Yeah, I don't mind playing wet golf either, though. Like, I've got all the gear. Like, I've definitely got more golf equipment than I should have for someone as bad as I am. But that's the advantage of having accessible income.
Fair enough.
So, yeah. I need to play... I'm going to play some more golf this year.
You're right.
Am I all right?
Yeah,
I'm
you're right.
horrible.
You're horrible.
My handicap.
We should go play horrible golf
My
together.
handicap's 31.4, and that's a legitimate GA
I don't
handicap.
even know what a handicap is.
You would be better than me, and I don't even need to see you play. I don't.
This sounds like a wager. Yeah.
Bet who's worse? Well, that's the answer.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, I'm really thankful for the time to be able to come in and interview you today.
I'm glad you offered to do it. I think
I recognise that you've done a lot of things industry-wide. I know that you've, like DK has produced some videos for MLSA and that was really generous of you and DK and Waterpro as well. And you spent a lot of time in front of this camera interviewing a lot of people and, and being able to raise their profile.
Yep.
And at the same time, you reference, I guess, some of your life experiences and your business experiences as well. And I really wanted the opportunity, from the outset of you and I sitting down doing this episode 11, I wanted the opportunity, I guess, to be able to repay that favour a little bit and, put you under the spotlight and let people see perhaps a little bit more of you that they wouldn't ordinarily just see with the little snapshots of the references that you make. Yep. And even there's a lot of things that I would have liked to have covered. Maybe we can do a 2.0 another time.
There's
but
Chris Collingwood, who was one of our guests. Where was he? 3, 4, 5. He's up. I can't see him. Oh, he's there. Yeah, so he was what, 10, 11, 12. Oh, he's after you. Mm-hmm. He said, I'd love to do, interview you back. So,
well, I reckon maybe there's a lot of space for continued interviews.
I was going to say that'd be interesting. That's just getting ridiculously self-indulgent. But then again, having a full-time cameraman probably is. So I went to message him, and then I saw on Facebook that he was on holidays. I was like, hopefully he's cool with it. So sorry, Chris, if you did get through this whole podcast. I wasn't.
Well, he was 12, yeah?
Yeah, so he can
I was 11,
next. Yeah,
so...
You asked first.
Yeah.
So,
cool. But look, I've enjoyed it anyway, and I wish you all the best with, your continued endeavours and keep working on phase 2, whatever that is.
I don't know what... We'd be close to phase 8 or something now, but thanks for doing it, man.
No, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Clint, thank you.